What is up, everybody? It's Friday afternoon, and that means another episode of Jiles McCoy Live. That's right. It's got a new name because we have expanded our horizons, because this is the spot for everything tech, hi-fi, and gaming. And we're kicking off season 3 today. It's 2023 for season 3 with episode number 301. And joining us is the one and the only Brett Bjorkquist from Market Maker. Brett, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jiles. Thanks for having me on today. And again, I apologize for anybody that joined earlier on. I did get my hour mixed up, and we've been moving into a new place here. So, like I said, I'm giving Jiles the first look at my new place with no furniture. I'm literally on outdoor furniture right now, but wanted to make the time to chat with Jiles and everybody else out there.
Yeah, well, man, I'm glad to have you on. And I think this is the first time we've actually talked this year as well. So it's cool to catch back up. And I think before we jump into the house and stuff, obviously you're having some great success with your solo album, however you want to think about it, right? Your business venture. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you got going on and what services you're providing out there in the big wide world.
Sure, absolutely. So last year, which was probably one of the last. I think we've talked since then, but last year I actually started my new business, so Market Maker. So for those that may not know me or haven't seen me on here before, I've got about 23 years in consumer electronics. So again, this is a heavy passion of mine. I always love the industry. I started out for anybody on the West Coast side at Good Guys. Running stores, programming systems, all the way back to, I always say, Philips Prontos and Mitsubishi Diamond rear projection TVs. So, throw me back there a little bit. So, from there, I've worked for a variety of manufacturers. So I kind of got pulled over to that side. I've worked on, big, massive consumer products like Beats by Dre. I've worked on Kaleidoscape. I've worked at Bowers and Wilkins. We can actually see again. I may not have any furniture in here, but I do have.
You got your Bowers.
It's all about priorities. What's the first thing I need? I need music. So yeah. So I've worked for a variety of companies from there. Obviously, I was at Logitech and ran the custom install group. So for those of you guys with Harmony remotes. I was there as we were building it, not as they stopped it. So just to clarify in there, of course. So I love them as well. But yeah, so, after working for those companies, and I spent a lot of time building out training platforms, education, typically for the dealers, the integrators that you guys go visit, if you guys go visit them. So working with the manufacturers. And so I kind of said, what if I went out on my own? And that way I could help more manufacturers. Some of these companies, while we look at them, they may be big, expensive products, are really small companies, right? Often led by engineers. And so they need to get the word out there. And so the idea is I can work with multiple companies instead of just one, and help them with their online education, training. And then as I expand into things, I'll be doing things like survey work. So that's where, again, all the people here listening, it's great, because what I want to do is I want to be able to make sure that manufacturers are hearing what the consumers really want. So like I said, I'll be creating surveys that people can register for. And then we can take that data and I can, give it to the manufacturers so that they know, hey, for this type of product, this is the feature set that they're looking for. And hopefully it creates a little bit more of a, of a bond between, especially
absolutely,
the CI products and the consumers, because I've always said, none of these CI products exist if it's not for the consumers buying them, right? It's people like us that are passionate for it. Whether we're talking about a Kaleidoscape product or, whatever it is, oftentimes we're obviously looking at higher end products, the turn-offs and the storms and things like that. But, really any of these companies, it's making sure that they get all the feedback needed. So, I think it's something that benefits the industry. It's something that benefits the consumer. And if it allows me to continue to enjoy, my passion for this industry, then, I'm all for it. And it's been going well.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that things are working out. Mike is commenting, says, "Man, that fireplace is phenomenal."
You like that? Thank you. It's
Dude, it's you must have a stunning new pad you're putting together over there.
it is pretty cool. So I will say, it's hard because typically you don't flaunt your house. But you're in
Dude,
the
if
same
you got it.
styles, right? It's like, I need to show off my theater, right? I'm adding new speakers. I've watched videos of you, and it's the same thing. So I think this is one of those times where, I took the opportunity. So we actually moved. So I've been in San Mateo. So it's like the North Bay area of,
Mhm.
California forever, right? In between San Jose and San Francisco. And so we actually closed on this house a little bit ago, and we're just starting to move in. And so we're up in Sacramento now. So if anybody is
Oh, nice.
in
Yeah, Sectel.
northern
Yeah.
California, um, but I'm using the opportunity. So my wife will come up. She's a teacher, so she's gonna have a new spot up here. My daughter's graduating high school in June, so that's where we're officially gonna move up. But we took the opportunity to take a bigger house, in all reality, and I want to be able to show people. So again, as we're talking about kind of educating and this and that,
Mhm.
my goal is to be able to show a few different topics. So obviously we've got some room in here. I've got a room that's never been developed. That's over the garage. So it's a little off in terms of size. It's 11 feet wide. And then it's got a barrel ceiling where it's
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
got
goes up at an
the
angle and then it
sides
flattens
that are
off.
angled. Yeah. Mhm.
So it's 8 foot at the top and only 6.5 foot at the low point.
Yeah, I know
So,
that's
and then it's
interesting for
23
Atmos
feet
and
deep.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's not prime for a theater, but this is what we live with, right? I mean, this is,
Mhm.
and I think for a lot of people, it's, well, do I not do anything or am I happy? So there's a lot of things that we're able to do with it. And so I'm going to actually, we love, and I always love watching install videos, yours, and people going around with it. I'm going to show the full destruction of the room all the way through the build out. I will have my good friends over at KYD, so Keith Yates, who
Yep.
I know you've had on, and Andrew, helping me out. So, like I said,
I hate you already.
I know. What can I say, right?
I
So,
hate you already.
so I will be doing a lot of free work
That's
for
awesome. That's awesome.
for Keith in order to pay for that. But the idea is obviously, he builds these amazing systems, right? And a lot of them are obviously prohibitive for most of us, in the $500,000 to $2 million plus range. But he's got this great new alpha program, and it's really designed, I think
Mhm.
he's talked about it a little bit, but
Yeah, I think
it
he
starts
talked
at
about that when he was on, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you're still really talking about 50 grand. So it's not, it's not a small amount, but the work that you get for it is absolutely amazing. And so what I'm trying to get them with this house to see is, hey, if you had a house that's, it's not brand new construction like a lot of his systems, and clients have. It's not, it's here's the existing room that I have. What can we do with it?
Right.
What can we do to make sure that the acoustics are right and that things sound good? And, and again, for the room, for what it is. So we'll be doing that. I think I haven't picked any products yet, but I've also been talking with another gentleman. I don't know if you know Anthony Gramani,
Mhm.
who does similar designs and does. He actually has some new speakers that he's put out. So like I said, like I said, it should be a good opportunity for people to see some great product and more importantly, why we're picking the products. So we'll kind of talk about that. In addition to that, we're going to be doing some full home audio, at least in about half the home. So they did not wire for a lot of speakers in this place, which kills me because I got to have audio and sound everywhere, right? So,
That's right.
so we'll be setting some of that stuff up. So I'll be showing how to put in, various products, either multi-channel amps or something like a Sonos. So like I said, we'll be doing that in some of the different rooms. I'll be installing ceiling speakers. I just picked up. That's why I was late in here or thought I was on time, but so I was just over at Custom Plus, which is a local distributor to me. And so they helped me out with some products. So I just picked up a new frame TV. So I'll actually show how to install a
Ooh,
frame, which I
nice.
think, did you do that before too? Don't you have
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I've done
one in like in your
install
kitchen
on
area or something, right?
yeah, the 2021 version, right?
Okay.
And hopefully you have a 2022 because it is
I do.
so much better than the 2021.
Yes.
It is a
Yes.
big deal.
And so yeah, so we'll be doing that right now. It's going to be installed in my family room because I don't really have a whole lot and we need, outdoor seating and some sort of TV there.
Sure.
So like I said, it'll be there, but then ultimately it'll go into a guest room mounted up on up on the wall. And then, we want to do some stuff like lighting control. So, this house is 5,600 square feet. It has well more than
Oh,
180.
here's the flex. Oh,
Sorry,
5,600 square
sorry.
feet.
I know.
Roar! No, that's super cool, man.
But I'm out in Sacramento. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna come visit you is what I'm gonna do.
Well,
I wanna
Giles,
see it.
you are always invited. You make your
I wanna
way
see
out
it.
here. I've got for the first time ever. So, like I said, I came in the Bay Area, right? Which was, we had about 1,800, 1,900 square feet, which is good size by all, by
Oh,
all
dude,
means.
in the Bay Area, that's a mansion. What are you talking about?
Unfortunately, I know the people that live in the mansions, and they're a lot bigger
Yeah,
than
yeah, I
mine.
know.
But yes, but for the area, it was great, right? But small patio backyard, and
Mhm.
all that. Um, and obviously I wired every square foot of that house, so we actually rebuilt a lot of it. And so it was great, but I had all my light switches in there, so I had Roxy Select stuff, in that one. And as well as some, Philips Hue and different things like that, some Ring cameras. And so we're going to kind of do some of the same stuff here, but again, I want to show people like there's rooms in here where there's literally 7 light switches.
Mhm.
So just that, when you come over, Giles, how the hell do you know which
That's right.
which switch that you're going to use, right? I mean, there's
That's
just
right.
no good way to be able to do that. And so, I want to be able to show how, products, and it really doesn't matter, Leviton, Lutron, whatever, or even going to the control plan, the control fours and things like that.
Yeah,
Salon
Savants
Express.
or whatever. Yeah.
So, I'm going to build it out because, we're already sitting here as we're moving in, and every time you want to turn on a light, you have to hit 5 of them to figure out which one controls the one that you want. Right.
Right.
And so yeah, so I think we'll do some lighting control, the front yard and the backyard for as much time. So the people I bought this from designed it about 10 years ago. So the
Mhm.
owners were the designer and the builder. And that's what he did for a living. So this was like his demo house to show how to build his houses, right? So the
Nice.
inside is beautiful, but you go look out front or you look out back, there's no lighting control at all. So when it's dark, it is like pitch black out there.
Right.
And that just doesn't make sense. So, so we'll do some outdoor lighting. We'll do the indoor lighting. We'll do a control system in here, which will probably be Control 4, but we'll take a look. And then and yeah, and then we'll do some security systems in here, probably with Ring. So again, my goal was if I bought a house that was a little bit bigger, that needed some, like, the house doesn't need work, but the electronics and stuff do. There's nothing in here.
Sure.
It's a perfect opportunity for me to look at that from an education standpoint and say, oh, let's create some videos that show people not just why they like it, or here's a use video of Ring, but how do you actually install this? Should I feel comfortable with doing electrical in my own house? So like I said, we'll go through a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think it'll be a good time.
I think that's awesome, man. The lighting stuff. I remember when I did this house,
Mhm.
and I don't know. You can. So I did all of these, right? And these are all automated, and it's through the whole house. And it's a really fun project to do because then after that you can really come up with some great control scenarios, right?
Yes.
But what gets trickier, the 3-way lights, or if you have like some
Yep.
super fancy like 4-way or something crazy like that, because what you end up doing is taking the 3-way and turning it into a master with 2 remotes,
Yep.
right? And you have to figure out the correct wiring.
Yeah.
And
So you have to know the right way to do it.
and so
And
it's
yeah, if one gets turned off, it can affect the other ones. And
exactly, yeah. So it gets a little tricky, but I always say if I can do it, everybody else can do it. And I think this will be great for you to show people that yeah, you can install all this great stuff and you can do it, and it's not super crazy, right?
yeah.
It's accomplishable.
Yeah, take it piece by piece and go through there. And so yeah, like I said, I think it's great. I always love, various, forums where people are talking about product, but sometimes people, they need a little bit, how do I do this? It's a daunting thought process, right? How am I
Sure.
going to replace 100 switches, which is a lot. So, but maybe it's starting with 5. Maybe it's, I'm a big believer that, lighting control, once you put it in, and, my wife and my daughter are prime on this, every time I start throwing something in, it's, do we really need this? Do we need the lights? I mean, I go all the way back to X10 lighting, again, right? So my first lights were X10s, but I remember putting them on a URC remote. And I don't know if I've said this one before, but so I put them in and I installed our first lighting right about the time where my daughter was born.
Right.
And so, my wife would always be kind of like, do we really need this? What are you doing now? Light switches work. I can get up and walk and push the button. Right.
Right.
And, but I remember her, I was coming home late. And so I remember her telling me one time, oh, this was actually really cool because she just took the remote. She was sitting down. Our daughter finally, kind of fell asleep and passed out. And so, so now my wife wants to relax. And she's like, oh, the porch light's not on. And so, she grabbed the remote and she hit the porch button and the light turns on. And now I've got a light when I come home. And, then she dimmed the lights without having to get up in the, in the family room that she was at. And then obviously the remote turned on the TV. And so, I think it's once you start learning those few things, it becomes that convenience becomes something that you really, really enjoy. And obviously we've, bypassed X10,
that's many moons ago.
A little bit ago. And so, as we've gone into, like I said, in our old house, Lutron Rocks we select, so like a cassette up, but you can do more lights. And so, when we did that, and then I partnered up with voice control, and now, everybody enjoys it, right? You can turn the kitchen lights off when you're sitting down and, watching TV. You can, turn the hall lights on or off, and now you don't even have to push a button for my porch lights because they go with the sun. Yep. So, I set it up so that at sunset they turn on, or 10 minutes after sunset, and then they go off at 11 o'clock. So there's so much cool automation that people don't always know. Even when I was at Logitech, we used to talk a lot about like Philips Hue bulbs, because I love the color control, right? And again,
Absolutely.
they're not inexpensive bulbs, but you can do so much with them. They really have a
right.
back-end platform that works. And so, I've always loved being able to, set up different rooms for different scenarios. It's we did one, I remember, with when I was at Logitech. So we set it up so if you hit the Xbox button, all the lights in the room turn green. So they kind of went on with the,
cool.
And so, there's just so much cool stuff in there that you can do. And so I'm super excited to be able to not only get this house built out the way that we want it, obviously personally, but share that insight and education with people so that, if they are on the fence or they're not sure, hey, can I do this myself, or what can I do with this? I mean, we used to find people all the time, they put Philips Hue bulbs and they're just glowing white or they're glowing one color. I changed mine in my front yard. So my porch lights, and then I've got like ground cover lights, and I changed them with everything. Right. So
with the holidays, right?
Yeah. So it's like, hey, right now they're going into like pink and red for Valentine's Day, at Christmas time. Right. They'll go green and red. Summertime, I'll change them up, and, Easter, and, it's fun. It changes it up a little bit. We always get people walking by saying, hey, I love that, that everything's lit up well. So there's a safety side of it. And then there's kind of the fun side of it, so.
That's awesome. I was at CES earlier this year, and the number of new light control device manufacturers is staggering, and the units they have now are just amazing, right? You don't have to have what looks like a traditional Decorator light switch, right, with the rocker.
Yep.
I mean, I saw maybe 5 or 6 different manufacturers making nice LCD versions that just are gorgeous, right? Yeah. And they have motion sensors and all kinds of stuff built in. So I mean, there's no limit to the possibilities these days on that kind of technology.
Oh, it's so cool, and people will get concerned, and right, do you buy this? I think so many people, and Lutron's a great company, but people buy it because they're kind of the king, right? They're the 800-pound gorilla in that scenario. But by me in San Mateo, there's actually Brilliant AV, and so Brilliant, and so the light switches they do, where you can actually put on it's got a touch keypad, and then you can actually, and then it's got lights for loads, but you can actually have the light switch control your Sonos instead, or it ties in with Ring, so you can actually see your front camera, and you can close the camera, but you can use it for an interface as like an intercom. So you're watching this technology where people have had this technology, right? The old school intercoms and this and that, but if I can build it all into one that has Alexa built into it, that that I can just talk to, so I don't need an extra little a cube, or or a dot, or depending on your flavor, that's nice to have. And people can understand it if I can tap it when I walk into a room and have access to my Sonos playlist, so then I can just start music going. I think those are things that it's a luxury that usually is reserved for the high end, right? I have to do a ton of programming to be able to do this.
That's right.
And you've got these manufacturers that are coming out and they're simplifying it. They're making it so that the average consumer could do a DIY, or you can get a less expensive integrator to come out, right? Because you can do it faster. I don't need a week and a half to put in lights. I can get it done in a couple days or a day. I can put a doorbell cam. I can do, all these things that used to be prohibitively expensive, and now for $150, you've got a doorbell cam that that works reliably. So yeah, like I said, I'm excited for what it's able to do. And like I said, I love showing people like, oh, so you put this stuff in, why don't we take advantage of it, right? Because again, a lot of consumers don't know, oh, how do I set these things up? How do I make it so my Lutron lights, it's great that I can control them or use an app, but what if I can automate them, true automation, where they go on at a particular time and they follow the sun, or, you get into the higher end stuff like Lutron Ketra, and you can actually change the Kelvin rating of the light, right? So you can change it to go through the day, right? So
that's right. It should be warm and
so
bright.
much cool technology, and so I don't want to just look at the big high end stuff. I want to look at that as well. But I really want to be able to take a look at what's that mid-range stuff. What's the stuff that could be done DIY, or what some people call, DIFM, do it for me.
Right.
But doesn't always require the ultra high-end, programmers and installation. And then we can talk about some of those things too, because I definitely have some great integrators, and we'll be doing some stuff around here. So
yeah, I've always had heartburn around those type of control systems where it's built in to make it sticky for the integrator, where you have no choice, right? So like in the older days, Crestron, Control 4, so all that stuff, you can't do anything with it, right? It's a black box, and you pay somebody some money, they can put it in, and you have what you have. But if you want to grow or change, it's a service call.
And for anything, right? Oh, I swapped a DVD player. Oh, there's a new Apple TV, or or I swapped that over from a Fire Stick, or whatever it is. And I think that holds a lot of people off of it, right? Like, so I can understand the first integration round, but if I have in my head that I change my DVD player from a Sony to a Panasonic or an Oppo, and into something new, and now it's going to cost me $300 or $400 on top to program it, then that doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, what I will say, and I like this, and I know a few integrators that have been doing this, but most of those systems now, so if you go back even 5-8 years ago, you had to be on site. And so a lot of that charge was that you had to pay for a guy to roll a truck out to come out, right? And realistically, like any company, they'd rather be doing a whole new install than reprogramming your Sony DVD player, which is why it usually ends up being a little bit more. But for a lot of these products now, they can program them remotely. And I know a few integrators that are doing that. So, if you're coming in and, it's like, hey, it's Jiles. Jiles is well aware of how to unplug the old DVD player and plug the new one in, and obviously what the model number is, if it's IP or if you have a little IR blaster on it. And as long as you set it up physically in your room, they should be able to log into that system and, reprogram it in 20 minutes. If we're just, depending on what it is, how integrated it is with, different scenes and scenarios. But for the most part, I think that does open it up where, if I can tap in from a Crestron home perspective or a Control4 perspective, now I don't need to charge as much because I could be in my office or I could be on another job site or I could be at home after, after the day and just say, okay, Giles, you're all set up. Here you go, 20 minutes later. And now maybe you're only getting charged a half an hour bill, right? Which is going to be far more realistic. So I do hope, because I am a proponent of, of true integrators. They've learned their craft just like an electrician or a plumber, and they really have to pull in all those different things, right? Because it isn't just the TV now. I want to pull in my HVAC. I want to be able to control that so that things are automated. I want to be able to, and even where, I if a water heater explodes or something like that, I can actually shut off the water.
Yeah.
How amazing is it if, something actually happens and, something's leaking and it can detect the leak and shut off the main valve without you even being home. Those are things that, again, obviously I see that for the guy who's got his third house in the Aspens and, and that's all great, but really I could use that in my home, right? Anybody can use that in their home.
I have often thought of that one, the water, myself, because I'm really paranoid about that. Of course, that one I would want to pay someone to come in as they're cutting into that water main.
You got it, into the pipes and everything else, right? Yes.
I'm not touching that.
That's all you need is the phone call afterwards. It's like, yeah, that pipe that you put together? Yeah, it didn't work. But yeah, water is crazy, right? When things happen and things, I know multiple people who've had, especially if it's a 2-story and, the bathroom leaks upstairs and they end up flooding the house. It's, and especially if they're gone, it always seems to happen when you're gone for the weekend or doing something. But, those are things that are important for every homeowner. And so, those are the kinds of things that, like you said, I'm probably not even going to mess with the pipe, but I may actually do a segment on that and bring out a plumber and then have them show you, right?
Absolutely.
Or, bring in an electrician. I'm told, I haven't met any of my neighbors yet, but I'm told I have an electrician, a realtor. I think I heard a plumber, a fireman, all around the corner. So, I think it might be fun to kind of bring some of those people in and say, okay, am I doing this right? What are the tips and the tricks on this kind of stuff?
Whoa, there are already people coming to see it.
I've never heard a doorbell ring here, so I'm not going to get it. We'll see if my wife gets it, or it's probably some deliveries. Like I said, we came up this weekend because we had house deliveries coming in. So
it's probably the neighbors like, who's breaking into the house?
That's right. We got here at like 11:30 last night, so I'm sure there was somebody like, the house has been empty. Why are people coming in now?
If you hear the bang, 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 open up police,
that's right.
You should probably go at that point.
When I get stuck and I'm arrested at my house over the first weekend, but
that's right.
So like I said, I'm super jazzed for it. There's a ton of projects that I know I'm going to be doing here. And so, just like you and so many others that I've always watched and, followed and loved, I want to be able to help out as well. So, like I said, we'll do some stuff. I'll probably, be kicking off a YouTube channel of my own where I can.
I was going to ask
for people to be able to
what does that look like? Yeah. Do you have that yet? Or
so we will see. I'll tell you what. Let's get your opinion on this right now. So I need to pick a name, right? As you look at the names for your YouTube channels and this and that. Market Maker is great because that's my business, but that's really serving the manufacturers, right? As I help them to build their markets, education, training, things like that. So I'm trying to figure out, do I put it under Market Maker? Do I make something a little bit more consumer focused? Because really it's more consumer focused when I make these videos. So I thought about FAQN home theater or FAQN technology, my technology.
Right.
Which if you think through it is fucking technology.
Right.
FAQN, right? So do I go big on it? Is somebody not going to like that? I don't know. You've been doing this for a while, Giles. What's your thought, or what's anybody that's on here's thought?
So
you have fun with it, you know what I mean? Or or do you try to make it a little bit more professional and do something like, industry installer or something
here's
like
the thing, right? So naming your channel is it's a pretty big deal,
that?
right? Because you're going to name it and you're going to build branding around and all that piece, right? And I've renamed my channel like 3 times, right? Because I feel like I've never gotten it right. And I finally got to the point where, okay, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into any certain niche of technology, right? Because from my point of view, my channel is just all about the stuff that I like to play with, right?
Sure, no
And
doubt.
I tried to come up with the most broad umbrella that wasn't too broad. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, I have to limit myself to 3 different descriptors. So what can
Yeah,
it be? And so, technology, hi-fi, and in those 2, I include home theater and then gaming, right? Because
yeah,
that I like to do a lot of tabletop as well as electronic gaming. So, and I couldn't think of a name that was broad enough for that. I could have called it the technology hi-fi and gaming channel. Um, but another aspect of any social media channel really is growing a community. And Mike's watching, and I know he understands the challenge there. Um, so I just decided, okay, well, it's just a channel about the stuff that I like to deal
yeah,
with, and hopefully there are enough people that identify with the things that I like. So I made it my name, right? So,
yeah, fair
um,
enough.
then you come and you get what you get. You
Yeah.
don't throw a fit.
Well,
Um, but it what's better than that though is if you can be more specific and stay inside of a niche or
yeah,
niche, and then have a name that reflects that niche, right?
yeah. And that's where I've gone back and forth, because part of me, similar to like what you're saying. So, if you look at my stuff, it's electronics technology, right? And then you get into, for me, it's cars. So, track and
Right,
racing stuff, because I like to do a lot of that. So I figured, why not talk about that, right? I mean,
right.
again, like you said, it's more of a lifestyle piece, right?
Yeah,
Who's out there that enjoys what I enjoy, and maybe they only like one piece of it, but they watch something else, and maybe that gets them into it, right? So, so even for me, like, I've always liked cars, but track stuff has only been probably in the last 5-6 years, and I
right.
got that from another friend of mine. So,
Yep.
and that's, again, just like technology, that's one of those things that's kind of scary. What am I doing? Does this make sense? I'd love to do this. I'd love, I've got a nice car, I've got this or that. I'd like to take it out, but how hard is that to do? To actually put it out on the track. So I figured, again, kind of demystifying some of that stuff. And then, maybe looking at some of the bourbons and whiskeys and stuff like that too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I think they all go together. So
And so you're like it should be, you should name your channle BB's High-End Lifestyle,
ooh, I see. There you go. So
and then everybody will start calling you BB.
BP, I get BP sometimes. I get Dub B. I get a
Mhm.
few of them when it comes in with the B on the both sides. So, but no, I like that, because that's that really is what it is, right? And if I look at my favorite forums and things that I'm on, I picked up one. So I've never, again, from looking at the same thing. So I have in my San Mateo house, so my existing house, I had a 1-car garage, but like most people, it's filled with storage stuff because there's not enough
Right.
room in the house, right? So here it's a 4-car garage.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty jazzed for that, and I'll have a section that's mine for again, any woodworking and building
Sure, it's your shop.
and stuff like that. Yeah, so it'll be a true little shop in there. And so again, all these projects, it'll take a little bit of time to get them all done, but yeah, I love the idea of being able to share those experiences with people. And so I've got there's a forum that I'm on. It's average middle class garage goals.
Okay.
You see some of these, and there's like a guy's got a helicopter in the room, and some of these are not average middle class. But
Sure.
it's fun to see them, right? And then at the same time, other people are like, hey, I've got 1-car, 2-car. What do I do with this? But there's questions on like, how do you do an epoxy floor? Is it worth it? Can you do it yourself, or do you need to pay somebody to do it?
That's how I do it. I pay somebody else to do it.
And but I love doing both, right? So I love
Right.
getting hands-on and building the stuff myself, programming the stuff myself, not just for a savings of money, but to understand the process, right?
Mhm.
But I watch people like on the epoxy floor stuff, and people lay their own, but when the tires get hot, they'll actually peel up the epoxy.
Yeah.
And that sometimes that's because they're using a consumer version of an epoxy, right? Or
That's
it's
right.
not cured right, or it's not thick enough, or whatever it is. And so I think those are the things that people, again, for myself, even like, I want to know what's the right way to do this, or what are my options in both sides? Or do you go with something else? I found, when you start looking at what it costs for an epoxy, I found it's like an engineered tile, right? So,
Right.
and it looked beautiful. I saw some pictures of it and this and that, and I'm like, hey, I could lay that, into a garage. But then it's like, you need to have a flat garage, because if you built one that maybe has a drain and so it funnels down,
Yeah.
then they're not going to lay right. So,
Yeah.
there's lots of stuff that's in there. And so, I just want to kind of be able to say, okay, if I'm going to do these things myself, I love chatting with people and educating people on the stuff. Why not take a look at it? And maybe it is BB's high-end lifestyle. I will have to see if that's taken. Probably not. But yeah, I think that makes sense versus just going technology, which, like you said, I've known you since the home theater enthusiast side, but I can understand wanting to talk about other stuff and pulling it into your whole world, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And
cool.
part of it is I just get bored, right? And I want to do new things.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to be able to do that without people saying, well, your channel's called Home Theater this thing. And why are you doing a electronic chess set that moves the pieces by itself? Right? Because I'm going to do a video on that here pretty soon, because it's awesome and I love it.
Well, watch it.
And I want to be able to.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we're closing out on our time now.
Yep.
The new format is about half an hour. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to get them in, and we'll run through them quickly. But real fast. You're here on Jiles McCoy, my YouTube channel. I still have Home Theater Fanatics over on Instagram, and I also have the Jiles McCoy on Instagram as well. So go check those out. Make sure that you're subscribed here. When BB's high-end lifestyle comes out, we'll put a link down below to that, and
there
you
we
can
go.
Check that out. Now, Market Maker. If people want to find out about Market Maker, where do they find out about that at?
Sure. So you can go to my website, which is marketmaker.com. So again, no vowels in there, you guys. So it's MRKTMKR.com. If you have a question for me or have any input for me, maybe you have a great YouTube name that you think I should use or anything like that. I always love catching up with everybody. So you are always welcome to text or email me at Brett, so BRETT, at marketmaker.com. And like I said, always happy to chat. Like I said, if people have questions, on technology, anything, theaters, lighting, control systems, anything like that, I'm always happy to answer questions, or introduce you, depending on where you live, to an integrator if you want one, or talk about some of the DIY options that are in there for products as well. And then, as soon as I get a channel up, I will be sure to let everybody know, and appreciate any support from that perspective, Giles. Cause like I said, I think, your groups are great, for all the people that hang out in your areas. You've done a great job moderating. Obviously once I get set up, I'll have you on mine.
Absolutely happy to do it.
But yeah, like I said, I'm excited to be able to do it. So like I said, if you need help, if you're a manufacturer or consumer or an integrator, who wants help with education, online education, so LMS systems and things like that is a lot of what I do, then that's fine. If you have questions on general technology, more than happy to answer them. And look forward to seeing all your new shows on the new format this year, Giles. So I'll definitely be checking that out. And then, once I get my setup, I'd love to have anybody join me and subscribe as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, and like you said, for my new show, it's going to be Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time.
Mountain Time. I like that. Mountain time. Okay.
So
one o'clock. Gotta remember that. 1 o'clock.
And 4 o'clock Eastern. So we have just a handful of comments to run through here. So, I wanted to call out Mike, my buddy here in Colorado. He loves the fireplace.
Thank you, Mike.
And Jeremy was here. He popped in for a second. Just wanted to say hi.
Sweet.
And he looks forward to seeing the theater. And once everything's done and you've got your content done, I want to come in and sit down in my first MKB. Did I say that right? No.
KYD.
Yes, KYD, Keith Yates Theater. It's his name. I should get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never listened to one before, so that would be pretty outstanding, and I'd love to show people that as well. And then Snake Dude 61. We have one technical question that it's unrelated to anything else we talked about, but here we go. Is 526 worth it if I can't put rears just to give the back row something? 526 is that's a little that's a lot up top without a lot down low. Personally, if I were going to do 526, but he says there's back row. There is a back row. Yeah, I would try and find some way to for sure get 7 bed channels with 2 rows.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at the same. I mean, it's getting your Atmos, your effect speakers up top is great, and if he's got a back row that at least gives the speakers, I understand that, but I have to agree, having bed speakers, either on the side or behind, really is the base layer of anything that you're watching in a movie.
Right.
So really that that becomes the important piece, I think, with Atmos. A 7.2.2 sounds good. A 7.2.4 is even better. But continuing to add upper effects without the beds, I think, is always difficult. And so many people, we get caught up in a lot of speakers. But I still love, my old place, I still had, 5.1. I mean, it's, good speakers, good placement, and good acoustics is really, where the core starts. And when you build from there, if you have the room as good as you can, then adding those additional speakers, is great, but, kind of becomes the icing on it. I've heard speakers that have, 14 speakers in a room, but it's not acoustically tuned. It just doesn't sound as good. Right. And so I think those are the, the only things that I would look at from there. Atmos speakers are great. So if you have the space in the ceiling, I'm assuming maybe there's an opening on the side or something in there that's prohibiting
problem,
from being able to get something in the back. But take a look, and then obviously there are electronics. Obviously we've seen Dirac and on the Storm side, and Trinov is coming out with stuff. So on the higher end side, obviously, but
Yep.
Do what you can with whatever optimization system, depending on what kind of AVR you have, to try to help with those back speakers, or put them on stands. I mean, again, you look at the stands on here, they don't look that bad. I mean, it's something where it's nice if you can kind of hide them or this or that, but if you can put speakers, and maybe if you have carpet in the room or have some sort of control where you can kind of run the cables underneath. I know plenty of people that will, just put speakers literally on the side of the couch or behind the couch, or something like that. So that would be my only other recommendation. But similar to you, Jiles, is do whatever you can to get the beds. The beds are so important. Atmos is great, but the beds are what gives you a truly solid theater experience.
Yeah, and just as a point of information for folks, just to talk about how things have evolved for me. So, I have a rather small theater, and it's a single row. It's 4 seats wide. And I built it up to where it was a 9.6.4, right, environment, which is a lot. And I've pared that down to 7.3.4 now, and I'm much happier with the way things are turning out by removing those front wides and consolidating subs down to make the room less cluttered, if that makes sense, right? Because this is like a retrofit room, so I'm not able to build subs behind the screen or put them in the walls and stuff. So the only place I have is either I could hollow out the ceiling, I suppose, but I've not done that. So they're just boxes sitting on the floor, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, it kind of, when the boxes, you've got like 6 refrigerators in there, it kind of takes away from the experience. So more is not always better. Having the right stuff
Yeah.
is always better.
Nope. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
Cool. All right. I think with that, we're going to go ahead and call it. Everybody out there, thank you so much. Look forward to the upcoming new time shows, right? So the world has changed and Friday is now the day. Look forward to seeing everybody at that time. And Brett, please keep me updated because I want you, if you want me to share pictures and stuff as you go through before you get your channel set up, let me know. I'm happy to dump all that stuff up onto the web and link back so people can find you. So happy to do it.
No, I appreciate it, Giles. Thank you to everybody. And yeah, have a great weekend. This is I love this new time slot now that I know what it is.
Right on. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. See you in the next one.
Bye.